Grief doesn't knock. It enters like a wave, sudden, cold, paralyzing. One moment, the world was full of sound, voices, laughter, life, and then it was a phone call, a diagnosis, a goodbye I wasn't ready for. I remember the exact moment the world changed, not in noise, but in silence. Because when someone you love is gone, everything around you keeps moving. But inside, you stop. The clock ticked. The sun rose. People sent messages with kind words and broken hearts, but I heard nothing. Just a dull, hollow silence where meaning used to live. I couldn't cry right away. Couldn't scream, couldn't speak. I was numb, not because I didn't care, but because I couldn't feel anything except the absence. Her voice, her presence, her scent in a shirt I couldn't bring myself to wash. Everyone said things like, "She's in a better place. Time heals. You're strong." But strength felt like a cruel demand. Time felt like a thief, and heaven felt far, far away. I wanted to pray, but all I could do was sit in the quiet, hoping God would sit there too. I stared out the window for hours, watching people walk by, laughing, eating, shopping. How could the world still turn when mine had shattered? Everything looked the same, but nothing felt familiar. Grief had pulled me into another dimension, one where I could hear the echo of who I used to be, but couldn't reach her anymore. And in that deep, endless silence, I whispered to no one in particular, "If you're there, I need you now." But no answer came, only more stillness. I didn't know it yet, but that whisper was the beginning of something holy. Grief doesn't just take the person you loved. It takes your rhythm, your sleep, your appetite, your ability to care about anything at all. The days blurred into each other. Sunrise, sunset, but nothing in between made sense. I'd go through the motions, get out of bed, make coffee, open the fridge, and close it again. I wasn't hungry. For food, for connection, for life. I moved like a ghost in my own home, touching things she used to touch, hearing songs she used to sing, walking past memories that now lived like shadows. Friends checked in. Messages came through. But I didn't know how to answer when someone asked, "How are you?" Because the honest answer was, I don't know, I wasn't okay. But I also wasn't falling apart the way I expected. I was just not there. Like my soul had been wrapped in cotton. Everything that used to make me feel alive now felt impossibly far away. I tried journaling, tried crying, tried screaming into pillows, but nothing helped. The pain didn't explode. It seeped, quiet, heavy, unrelenting. I tried to go back to church, sat in the back row, listened to the songs that used to stir something in me. But now, they felt like words from a life I no longer belonged to. I watched people raise their hands, eyes closed, singing with fire, and I wondered, will I ever feel anything again? Because grief isn't just sadness, it's numbness, disconnection, suspended animation. I was alive but not living, breathing but not here. I didn't want to give up, but I didn't know how to keep going. I needed something real, something beyond cliches, beyond noise. I needed a whisper, but all I had was silence. I thought faith would make this easier, that if I prayed enough, read the right scriptures, sang the right songs, I'd feel him, that he would rush in like comfort, wrap me in light, speak into the ache. But he didn't, at least not in the way I expected. I opened my Bible. The words felt hollow. I whispered prayers into my pillow at night. No answers came. Worship music played, but I couldn't sing. Not because I didn't believe, but because believing didn't stop the pain. And for the first time, I started wondering, am I doing something wrong? Maybe my grief was too loud. Maybe my sorrow was too heavy. Maybe my faith wasn't strong enough to reach him, because if he was near, why did he feel so far? I asked questions I'd never asked before, not theological ones, not intellectual ones, just the kind of questions only the broken ask in the dark. Why didn't you stop it? Where were you when I needed you most? Why did you let her leave before I was ready to say goodbye? Silence, not cruel, Not angry, just quiet. And in that quiet, I felt shame creeping in. Because I thought doubt meant distance. Thought grief meant I'd lost my grip on God. But the truth was simpler and more painful. I wasn't sure how to believe in a God who let this happen. So I did what I knew how to do. I sat in the silence. I kept showing up to the journal, to the prayer, to the empty space where I used to feel his presence. Even when nothing changed, I kept whispering, "Please don't leave me here." And though he didn't speak, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was listening. I didn't feel peace, but I wasn't ready to let go either. Somewhere deep inside, I still believed he heard me. Even if he didn't answer right away, it had been weeks, maybe months. I'd stopped counting. Grief had taken away my sense of time, and the silence from heaven had become its own kind of noise, constant, deafening, empty. And then one morning, I didn't try to fix it. I didn't open my Bible, didn't force a prayer, didn't press play on a worship playlist to stir up some feeling. I just sat still, quiet, tired of striving, tired of begging for the pain to end, tired of trying to make the silence mean something other than what it was. I wasn't angry anymore, just empty. I sat on the floor, legs crossed, hands in my lap, eyes unfocused. And for the first time, I didn't try to escape the silence. I welcomed it, let it wrap around me like a heavy blanket. Let it press against the edges of my grief without rushing to fill the space with words. And something shifted, not outside, not around me, but within. I realized the silence wasn't punishment. It was presence. It was the sound of God not rushing me, of God sitting with me, not to fix, not to speak, but just to be. I'd been waiting for a miracle, for some sign, some undeniable breakthrough. But what I needed wasn't noise. It was nearness. And in that stillness, a new kind of awareness settled in. He hadn't been gone. He'd been here all along. Quiet, patient, close. Grief didn't scare him. My silence didn't offend him. My questions didn't push him away. He wasn't waiting for me to get over it. He was waiting for me to stop running from it. And in that pause, in that sacred stillness, I finally let him sit with me, not to take the grief away, but to carry it with me. It didn't come like thunder. It didn't shake the walls or light up the sky. It came like breath, soft, subtle, so quiet. I almost missed it. I was sitting in the same spot, no music, no Bible, no words, just presence. And in the stillness, something stirred. Not around me, inside me, a thought, a memory, a voice. I don't know how to name it, only that it felt like something real, something alive. It wasn't loud. It didn't answer my questions. Didn't solve my sorrow, but it called me. Not with instruction, not with demand. It simply said my name. Not out loud, not through anyone else. Just this deep, undeniable knowing in my spirit. I see you. I know you. You are not forgotten in. That whisper didn't change my circumstances, but it changed me because it reminded me of something I hadn't felt in months. I was still known, still held, still his. The grief was still there, heavy as ever, but I wasn't alone in it anymore. The whisper didn't bring back what I lost, but it brought back what I thought had died with it. My faith, not the faith that moves mountains. The faith that simply says, I'll keep breathing. I'll keep trusting, even now. In that whisper, it kept coming. Not daily, not on command, but when I needed it, in the quiet, in the dark, in the grief that still lingered around the edges of my joy. And every time it said the same thing, not in words, but in presence, you're still mine. I wasn't healed, but I was being held, and somehow, that was enough. I kept hoping the grief would reverse. That maybe one day I'd wake up and it would have been a dream. That the ache would vanish, the silence would lift, and everything would return to how it was. But that day never came. Instead, something else began to return. Something I hadn't even noticed was missing. Me, not the version I was before the loss. She was gone, and I stopped trying to become her again, because I realized grief doesn't just take, it reveals. And what I found, buried beneath the sorrow and the silence, was a woman God was rebuilding from the inside out. I still cried, still missed her, still reached for memories like lifelines, but I also laughed again. A small laugh, fragile and unfamiliar, but real. I made coffee one morning and actually tasted it, sat in sunlight and let it warm my face without guilt, listened to a song and didn't change it halfway through. I started walking again, not to escape the pain, but to carry it differently. It was still there, but it no longer defined me. Because he hadn't brought back what I lost, but he had brought me back to breath, to stillness, to faith, not the kind that shouts and leaps, the kind that whispers and stays, the kind that sits with you at gravesides and empty rooms and quiet mornings when the weight feels unbearable and simply says, I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. That kind of faith doesn't erase grief. It holds it, redeems it, rebuilds you through it. And little by little, I was becoming someone new, not in spite of the loss, but through it, there was a time when I thought grief would be the end of my story. That losing her meant losing myself, my joy, my purpose, my God. But that wasn't true. Grief didn't end me. It changed me. It unraveled me, yes, stripped me bare, made me question everything. But in that unraveling, God was weaving something new. I didn't return to who I was. I never will. And I no longer want to, because who I am now is softer, deeper, more present. I used to think faith meant strength, holding everything together, smiling through storms, believing big and loud. But now I know faith can also be quiet. It can look like tears in the dark, a whispered prayer with no words, a heart that keeps beating even when it's broken. Grief became a companion, not an enemy. I stopped trying to silence it, started learning from it. It taught me to slow down, to listen more, to sit with others in their sorrow without trying to fix them. It taught me that presence matters more than answers. And it taught me that even when everything familiar is gone, God is not. He remains. In the mornings when I don't feel like rising. In the memories that ache but also comfort. In the quiet moments where peace comes like a breeze, not a blaze. I walk differently now, not with certainty, but with reverence, because I know what it's like to be lost and to be found by a whisper. Grief broke something in me, but it also opened a door. And through that door, I found the kind of faith I never knew I needed. Not the kind that avoids pain, but the kind that walks with it and still chooses hope. I used to look for God in the loud places, the pulpit, the miracle, the answered prayer, the breakthrough. But now I know God is just as present in the whisper, especially in the whisper, because grief doesn't make room for noise. It slows you down, quiets everything. And in that stillness, I learned to listen for a different kind of voice, not the kind that parts seas, but the one that says, I am with you when all you feel is loss, not the kind that fixes everything, but the one that stays when nothing is fixed. There were so many days I thought faith had left me, when in reality, faith had just changed clothes. It didn't look like confidence anymore. It looked like surrender. It looked like tears on the bathroom floor. It looked like walking into church with trembling hands. It looked like showing up again to life, to love, to God. I used to think strong faith meant loud declarations. Now I know strong faith can sound like, I'm still here. I don't understand, but I trust you. Just hold me through this. The whisper that called my name in the middle of my grief didn't promise restoration of what I lost. It promised something deeper, redemption of what remained. And that whisper, it became my lifeline, not because it solved everything, but because it reminded me of one truth I now carry with everything I am. I was never alone, even when it felt like I was. Faith doesn't always shout. It doesn't always roar. Sometimes it simply whispers, and that whisper was enough to bring me back to life.